Hello internet friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay, or Elijah, some of you might know me as, and today we are talking about memoirs of a consume last as an INTJ. But it will apply to many consume lasts, I am sure. If you're not familiar with the term consume, it is from the objective personality method. I encourage you to go check out their website, their class, and you can learn more about it there. If I have any videos on it, I'll link them below. So that being said, if you would like to talk to me about things, you can book a video session with me below. And let us start with talking about how I suck at this. All right, so question. Have you ever started to fall asleep while you're driving? I don't recommend it. The attention that it takes to continually refocus on the road when you're in that state of your body wanting to sleep is just, it feels torturous in a way. And that is very much how I feel when I'm trying to consume with my function stack. All right, so what is consume? It takes two functions, OE and DI. For myself as an INTJ, that means it's taking my extroverted sensing and my introverted feeling, my two bottom functions, which also happen to be both feminine, which just makes them even more loosey-goosey. And it's about taking in the external world for the self. Now, if you had a different function stack, your consume will be a different set of functions than mine are. But for the sake of this example, we're going to kind of put ourselves into the SCFI version of consume last. Now, the nice thing about being consume last is generally I feel as though I don't really notice that I'm consume last, just because simply I am not consuming. So it's like, oh, what was the most recent Netflix thing that came out? I don't know, it doesn't really matter. I don't feel like I'm missing out on any of these things because I'm just simply not considering them. Now, I will notice that people are talking about a lot of things that I'm just like, okay, I guess this is relevant in the real world to people. I'll feel a little out of touch there, but for the most part, as long as I have my systems in place to take care of my natural feeding and eating, I feel pretty good having consume last. It's what I like to call more than enough disease. So why aren't you taking in more? Why aren't you consuming more of your environment or of these things or of this information? Why don't you want to know more about this and that and take it and do and experience? It's like our brains are just like, no. I have enough. Like I did that thing one time before and like that was good enough to last me like the next 10 months. So like I don't need to. Like I have no desire to need to do the new fun, exciting thing because consume last. And just like when you're full from a meal and you're feeling like I can't eat anymore, I just can't shove another spoonful of rice into my mouth, that's how our brains will feel, because we're just like, I don't need anything new. I have enough stuff to process, to organize, and to make plenty of things out of from what I have. However, just the other day, I had an experience in which the feeling of being consumed last was so painful because of the amount of attention I had to give to the sensory. It was almost unbearable for a little bit there. So one of the parts of my big kid job is 2 days a week I manage a video studio. We have talent that comes in and records, and we have great cameras, and we do the whole thing. And generally there's someone who's on the camera switcher to basically pull what cameras to pull in for the feed. And they're paying attention to the best shots and looking at each angle and where the camera should be going. So generally someone else is doing that. However, they had to leave early the other day, and we still had several hours more of filming to do, like 3 or 4 hours. And so, of course, being a team player, I was like, okay, no problem. I'll hop on the switcher. We'll continue to film. Be no big deal. It will be no big deal, she thought. Now, the job in reality is pretty simple, right? You're just looking for the better camera angle, and you're constantly switching the camera based on what is appearing to be best, right? Yeah. So what I realized was that feeling of falling asleep at the wheel and having to jolt yourself awake was what I was constantly having to do with my consume last brain to pay attention to what was going on in order for me to continue to switch the camera. And it went on for hours. Like I said, generally speaking, I don't feel the pain of consume last. In a lot of ways, I consider it a blessing because I'm not really as distracted by things. I can see it being a lot harder in a lot of ways for people who have blast last. But all the same, in this circumstance, I could not help but want to stab my consume last right in the brain because of having to focus my attention on these physical things for the sake of me to do something. And so at the end of these 4 hours, I hadn't done much, right? I had moved my fingers across these buttons for a few hours. The amount of brain exhaustion I experienced after was just unsurpassed. And so I tell you this as an example of what it really feels like to be in the body of someone with consume last when your attention is needed on a subject for you to do something with, and or for you to take in for some reason, right? And so there's my SCFI, my consume last slot, and really how that impacted me that day. I hope it gives you a little perspective on what it's like to have that animal in that last place. If you are consume last, I'm sure you relate in some way, and I will see you guys in my next video. So long, internet friends.